am excited to introduce Staci Cihlar. She is in her 6th year as the area director of Bloomington Young Life, an outreach youth ministry serving middle school and high school students. She is passionate about sharing her faith with teens and believes she was made to walk with and love who many consider to be the farthest out kids. And Young Life has proven to be the perfect platform to do just that. Staci has been married to her husband Ryan, a professional drummer, for 4 years, and they have 3 cats and a dog, so a very full house. She also performs professionally, singing with the Minnesota Opera, her and her husband's duo, Cherry Dirt, and as a local worship leader at various churches. So welcome, Staci.
Well, hello, thank you so much for having me. I will be honest, this is my very first Rotary meeting ever, and I feel like I love you guys already. This is great. What a positive, awesome way to start the week. And great lunch. So, as Mary said, my name is Staci Cihlar. I'm the area director of Bloomington Young Life. We are an outreach youth ministry serving middle schoolers and high schoolers in Bloomington and beyond. Just out of curiosity, how many of you in here are familiar with Young Life? Oh, good. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, before I dive in and give you, those of you that are not familiar, kind of a nutshell or snapshot of the mission, I thought I would just tell you a little bit about myself. So this is Ryan. This is the handsome man that I've been married to for 4 years. He's a hottie. I'm lucky. Yeah. This is a slide of just a few of my favorite things. So this is Mary, Schomburg, Senny, and Millie. These are our rescue animals. We also call our house the Cihlar Animal Sanctuary. This is the Pantheon in Italy because I was just talking to Dwayne about I have such a love for that country and culture. And as Mary also mentioned, I sing with Minnesota Opera, among other things. So these were a few of my favorite costumes. Yes, that's me on the left with the black sort of pixie bob. But yeah, so before I start zooming in a little bit on what Bloomington Young Life looks like, the mission has a really great video that I think helps capture our ministry, and I'd love to show that to you.
We live in a culture where kids are desperate for meaning and value. They're on this incredible search.
Doesn't matter their skin color, doesn't matter their economic status.
They're filling their lives with all kinds of things, trying to belong.
Kids desperately need caring adults that will come alongside them, get right in the middle of wherever they are.
Who love them no matter what. Young Life is caring adults who love Jesus and love kids, and they enter into a kid's world.
Young Life is all about going to where kids are.
We're not waiting for a teenager to come to our building. We come to them.
The Young Life leader comes in, loves them where they are, accepts them right where they are without judgment.
I'm doing life with them, and they get to see how I respond with Jesus in every circumstance.
We've been doing this for a long time. We've been around since 1941. We've got ministries in all 50 states, over 95 countries, and we're not going to stop there.
What I love about Young Life is our true commitment to every kid. Middle school kids, high school kids, college students, kids with special needs, teen moms, teens of military families.
When they develop that relationship with that Young Life leader and realize that that relationship's not going away, it's life-changing for them.
We do a lot of things to invite kids in. We have clubs.
Young Life Club is the 1 hour a week that we gather a lot of kids.
You're gonna have fun, you're gonna be energized, and you're gonna learn that Christ is not boring.
It's a place where your kid can hear more about God, hear more about Jesus, and decide for themselves how they feel about that in a fun environment and in an accepting environment where people are going to love them and it's safe.
In the summer, we have an opportunity to take kids to camp, and Young Life Camp is the best week of their lives.
Many of the kids who go to Young Life Camp make lifelong decisions to follow Jesus. And the great thing about Young Life is when we send kids to Young Life camp, they go with their Young Life leader. And that same Young Life leader who's been with them all year comes home with them.
When I come back from camp and my phone I'm getting text messages from parents saying, I don't know what y'all did with my children at camp, but they are different. You know, when I get that kind of stuff, then that's cool.
We take very seriously the task of teaching them how to follow Christ, teaching them how to pray, teaching them how to read the Bible.
We plug them into a small group of their peers, and we call it campaigners, helping them discover what it means to follow Jesus and encouraging them to plug into a local church.
The vision of Young Life is that every kid will have the opportunity to hear about Jesus.
Every kid deserves to know who God is, deserves to know that somebody loves them.
How can you join this adventure? Because we are moving and we want you to come along.
Our staff are amazing. We need more of them. Our volunteers are amazing. We need more of them. We have donors who give sacrificially, and we need more of them.
If you love the Lord and have a heart for teenagers, I can teach you the rest.
This is an investment that is going to change kids' lives for generations. This is going to change communities for generations.
We know that if we show up and be available, that God uses that process and kids' lives change.
So if you didn't know this before, Bloomington Young Life's mission is to introduce adolescents to Jesus and help them grow in their faith. And it may sound a bit like church, but I will tell you it's very different than church. I have worked at and still do a lot of work with a local church. I've been on staff at Christ Presbyterian Church and still lead worship there for the youth groups quite a bit. And it's a different posture. On Wednesday evenings when I help with the youth there, I'm saying, I'm here on Wednesday night, come to us. And we assume that most of the kids that walk through the door share our faith and are believers. At Young Life, we go to them. So the difference is, that gets to the second C here. You saw a snapshot of club. That's where we're playing crazy games, we're singing songs they would hear on the radio, breaking down walls, getting kids laughing, and then myself or one of my leaders is giving a very basic, very unassuming talk about who we believe God to be, who we believe Jesus to be. People often ask me, well, how do you get these kids to come to your club? And that's where we get into contact work. So going back to that posture of being at the church on Wednesday nights and saying, come to us, this is where we'll be if you want to talk about God, we go to them. So you will start noticing now Young Life leaders, I bet, wearing Young Life t-shirts, hanging with their Young Life kids at the hockey games, cheering on their students that they took to camp, showing up I will see you in the lunchroom, Max, on Monday. I'm usually there on Mondays, hanging out with my kids. So we go to them on their turf, love them where they're at, meet them where they're at, and just a snapshot of what that looks like is, I will go cheer on this kid, Carter, that plays for Kennedy's hockey team. And his friends will see, these crazy adults like cheering on Carter, from the stands. And we don't have to say anything to them. They say to Carter, who is that crazy lady that was talking to you after the game and those people that were cheering you on? And he goes, those are my Young Life leaders. And they go, what's Young Life? And then they come on Monday night. And that's sort of just the difference. That's one of the differences between Young Life and church. Again, going back to just the message that they hear on Monday nights, we're a non-denominational group, so we don't get into anything I say that the churches fight about. So any message that a kid's going to hear at Young Life is going to fall in one of these categories. This is who we believe. We believe there's a creator, a God that's personal and that loves you. And we believe that Jesus is the visible expression of that invisible God. And then we talk about the character of this man named Jesus. And after that, when kids say, okay, so we've established this man named Jesus was a pretty great dude, why does that matter for me? Well, then we talk about a need that we all believe that we have. And then we talk about how we believe Jesus fulfilled that need on the cross. And then we say, okay, now you get to do with that what you decide to do with that. It's not a high-pressure environment. It's very welcoming to every kind of kid. I'd say another difference is and I love this about our club, is that on Monday nights, I have had kids at least once, a number of times, but in the last 6 years, every year, show up under the influence of something to club. And knowing that we're going to talk about God, knowing what all these young life leaders believe, but also knowing that they're loved exactly where they're at and they're welcome exactly how they are. And it's just beautiful to be a part of that. And so that's a little snapshot of club, of contact work. You also saw in the video a glimpse of camp. So we go to fall camp up at one of our properties in Detroit Lakes. If you've ever heard of Castaway Club, we own that. It's a beautiful camp. You hear the word camp and you may think, are they in tents, or are they in, screened-in porches? I don't know if any of you have been to Castaway in here. Has anyone in here seen Castaway Club? Okay. It's a resort for high schoolers. I mean, it is a legit resort. The landscaping is gorgeous. There's air conditioning and heat in the cabins. It's not roughing it. It is truly what kids started having us market as the best week of their lives, because we kept hearing them say that. It's high adventure. One of my favorite parts of Young Life Camp is before they step off the bus, we collect their phones. That in and of itself is a miracle. Now, I don't know if all of y'all believe in miracles, but that's a miracle when 50 kids are stepping off a bus and turning in their cell phone. And I'll tell you, it is one of the most beautiful scenes to see high schoolers looking up for the week and being present and having face-to-face conversations and just being able to put aside the distractions of social media and sometimes of home and just consider this story that they're hearing and what it maybe means for themselves. Every week at Young Life Camp, so there's the fall camp for the weekend, and then in the summer we go somewhere for a week. This summer we're going to Frontier Ranch, another Young Life property in Colorado. And no matter who the speaker is or what camp you go to across the country, the kids are given the chance to, at the end of the week, sit in silence for 15 minutes. No phone, no conversation, no distraction, just to sit in nature for 15 minutes and think about this good news that they've heard this week. And that's another miracle. I don't know how familiar you are with adolescent culture right now, but that is not something that a lot of teenagers make the space or have the space back at home to do. And so looking out over camp and seeing 400 high schoolers sitting in silence and thinking about what they've heard about God and who we believe God is and whose we believe they are is a pretty cool privilege. And that's also a chance when we get to see a lot of kids make decisions to follow the Lord. I've gotten to see a lot of lives change in that moment. So that's camp. Campaigners then, you also saw in the video, is open to anyone, but ends up primarily being a place where those kids that have made that decision stay after club, and because they want to learn how to read the Bible and how to navigate the Bible. And we want to help them connect with and find a church. We're not a replacement for the church, but I would say that we are often a bridge. A lot of the kids that first come to our club, I would say, and I believe they would say, would not feel comfortable maybe going in the doors of a church. But once they come to Young Life and they meet some Christians that maybe are different than what they thought Christians might be like, it ends up being a bridge. And a lot of kids end up coming to church with their Young Life leaders. So that's campaigners. And then committee is just like any nonprofit. We have an operating budget and a campership budget. The campership budget is because we never tell a kid that they can't come to camp because of money. And so our club is very diverse. I'll get to that in a minute here. But we never tell a kid they can't come to camp because of money. And so because of that, we end up having a lot of kids that need help filling the gap, and we have a lot of kids that fundraise a majority of the $800 cost, if not the whole $800 cost of going to a week of camp. And then we have an operating budget because this is my full-time job. I'm on staff. We have a part-time administrator, and then we have operating costs just like any other organization. And so our operating budget is $109,000 a year. And the committee's sole, well not sole, but main purpose is to help us fundraise that. So it's a group of local adults that we only have 2 events a year. We have a banquet and a golf tournament, but they help us with a lot of our relational contact work, so to speak, with adults, and setting up opportunities like this for me to speak at Rotary and different clubs and just sharing the mission. And so that's a little bit of a more zoomed in picture of Bloomington Young Life. So this is a picture of our some of our Young Life Club kids. This is a picture of some of our leaders taking some Young Life kids out to do contact work. They went climbing at Vertical Endeavors, and then these girls are out at Caribou. This is a picture of our group at camp. We climbed a mountain in Colorado, the Collegiate Mountains, if you're familiar with that. We climbed up to a summit there. It was a half-day trek. These are some of the kids that stay for campaigners. And this is just a picture that we use, just talking about the different seats on the bus for committee, getting people in the right seats. And I'm actually proud to say that after 6 years of being on staff, we finally have a really rockin', healthy, awesome committee of people that are just in the right seats. Okay, so 6 years ago, I interviewed for Bloomington Young Life. I got the job, and my boss, one of the first things he said to me was, you are inheriting a club that does not look like your city, and I challenge you to change that. And I had no idea what he meant because I hadn't met any of the kids yet. And I still get nervous thinking about when I actually started by going to camp with a bunch of kids that I had never met. Crazy. And so I get on a coach bus with a bunch of kids and the old area director who's passing kind of the keys off during the camp trip to me to see all these kids that I don't know. But I immediately, it clicked what he meant. And it became apparent to me that what was called Bloomington Young Life should have actually been called White, Wealthy, Athletic Jefferson Young Life. It was in no way reflective of Bloomington. It was one awesome friend group. I love those kids. I'll never forget them. They were the first kids that I ever had as my Young Life kids. But they did not represent even Jefferson. Racially, socioeconomically, just even socially. And so I immediately understood why my boss said, I challenge you to make your club look like your city. And so my volunteer leaders and I set out on a mission to do just that. And so this is where I personally started to have some life-changing relationships, and you'll see some of the kids that have helped me grow so much. But I learned that we as humans, we tend to gravitate toward people that look like us, that act like us, that have similar backgrounds as us. And so it was no surprise that the club looked like the leadership team. And so with the existing leaders that I had, we set out to go to the kids that didn't look like us and that we had nothing in common with. We set out to try and recruit some leaders that didn't look like us. And our leaders did an amazing job. And very quickly, actually, I would say, our club started to reflect more of the demographic of the city of Bloomington. I think at maybe our third club this year, we had kids from Jefferson, Kennedy, Sika Alternative School, Choice Alternative School. We had a kid that did online school that came to club, and we have a handful of kids that come from Eden Prairie to our club. It is no longer one school's turf over another. It is no longer one race or one social group or one socioeconomic group's turf. It is this mix of beautiful kids from all different backgrounds that come to our club. And I'll show you, this was a picture of our group going to fall camp my second year on staff. And this is a group of girls that these girls changed my life. So I was just a very sheltered, living in a bubble, white suburban girl that really did not have many friends of color. And these girls were the first real friends of color. They're high schoolers, but They were my first friends that I started to feel a fierce sense of protection for and desire to fight for. And I remember my husband and I having these girls over for dinner one night after we had sort of earned the right to ask these sorts of questions with them. I walked with these girls for a long time and really got to know them. And they came over one evening because we just wanted to hear their stories, just around what it was like to grow up in Bloomington, or what it was like, just some of the racial injustices they'd experienced. And it really opened my eyes a lot. It's been quite a learning experience. And just what started as my challenge from my boss turned into my own personal passion to really make this a place and a space that every single kind of kid felt welcome. And my leaders are very much on board, and it's truly become a place where a lot of different kinds of kids are welcome. This is an example. This is my dude. This is Brandon. He is like a little brother to me. He's now almost 20, but he's 17 here, and I met him when he was 12, maybe 13. He came with some seniors to club. Now, at that time, we did not have Wildlife, which is our middle school club. It's called Wildlife, rightly so. So he's one of the reasons that that dream started, actually, because we met Brandon and we did not have a middle school club for him, but it was very clear that he needed some sort of community, some sort of group of adults loving on him. Because about a year and a half before we met him, his mother had very tragically passed away from an accidental overdose. She had gotten out of the hospital after falling off of a ladder, and they had given her a couple of different kinds of painkillers, muscle relaxers that shouldn't have been mixed, and it was very tragic. And Brandon did not know how to handle that or process that, and so he told us at around the age of 12, some friends said, well, you should just smoke weed. That'll just calm your nerves. So he did, and it worked. But then it wasn't doing enough, and so around 13, he started drinking. And that did it for a while, but not enough. And he said on his 14th birthday, he tried cocaine for the first time. And then 15, he's needing more and needing more. And by 16, he was very addicted to Xanax, to the point where he was robbing people for money, stealing computers out of lockers at Kennedy for drug money. And had been recruited, actually before all of that even, to be in, a lot of times adolescents don't really use the term gang so much anymore, but it was a clique or the equivalent of basically a gang that he had to get out of, and there were consequences. So he was really on a pretty scary path, but I will tell you, this kid's heart is gold. I love that kid so much, and everybody loves Brandon. You can just see he's a good kid. He just was on his own and trying to navigate grief and process grief, and had no faith, to hang on to, no anchor, and no community of adults. And finally, by this year, when he was 17, we were able to get him away from the marijuana long enough to come to Frontier Ranch to Young Life Camp. And I got to watch this kid meet the Lord. I got to watch this kid be a kid, first off. I'd never gotten to see him be a kid. He was constantly stressed about their family being evicted. He was constantly stressed about his drug supplier driving by his house and shooting the place up. He was constantly stressed. And we got to see him be a kid. So this is Brandon being a kid. I mean, he's got charcoal on his face for a fake beard for Western night. Hilarious. And at the end of the week, he said, I believe this. I believe this. Like, I'm in. I think that this is true for me. And he still struggles. I mean, he's doing a lot better than he was, but it's still up and down for him. But he came over a few weeks ago for dinner, and he's like a little brother. And I just know that Brandon would not have taken it upon himself to show up. And I'm not knocking the church. I love the church. I just know that he wouldn't have gone there. And I know that he maybe would now. And a lot of these kids don't necessarily play sports or do anything outside of it. Young Life's actually kind of their thing. And it's been really neat to walk with these kids and to be a place where they feel safe to talk about those hard things and to be able to share with them that we're there because we believe that God loves them and that He wants us to love on them, and that we see them as our fellow brothers and sisters and created by the same God, and we just want to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And so often then they look at us and go, huh, really? And we, after earning the right to be heard, is what we call in Young Life, when you walk with a kid and love on them unconditionally, eventually a lot of times they'll look at you after 2 years of dodging your text messages or using you for rides or using you for Chipotle or not showing up when they say they're going to show up. Finally, eventually they look at you and say, why do you do this? And then when you get to answer with that, that ends up having more weight and more power than most sermons might. And so I have a little video here that shows a snapshot of, we had a video made, this was a handful of years ago, but of Bloomington, Young Life specifically.
I've been going to Young Life for so long, it's like it'd be a book. But some of my favorite moments have actually been at camp. I've gone to Castaway, I don't even know how many times, and it just is always a positive experience.
Highlight of my year with Young Life was Crooked Creek Ranch 2013. Definitely Crooked Creek 2013, hashtag CCR.
It was the absolute best week of my life.
Fall camp was probably like the best experience of my life.
Well, I went into the week at Crooked Creek, like not really knowing most of the girls, but I came home and they were all like 10 of my best friends. They all kind of helped me like strengthen my relationship with God, helped me develop my faith more.
Came home with like a whole new family, and yeah, now we have a small group that like meets pretty much like 3 times a week. It's okay.
They're the kind of people that you just feel like you've known like all your life. Like you just instantly meet them and you start to become friends with them because they're into the same things that you are. They love God and they're so, I don't know, it's a really wide variety of people. It's people coming from totally different backgrounds, but we all just get along so well.
Really friendly, a lot less judgment. We get to talk about God and our doubts. You know, I'm awkward, so it's hard to make friends for me. I don't really talk to anyone, but I still just love going there. And I literally, my whole week, I'm just super excited. On Friday, I'm like, oh yeah, Club Monday. I get really excited for it.
I meet like a little family, and I love them.
A leader that I really bonded with at camp was Annie. I just felt like I had a person to look up to, and she has a similar story as me, so I have an adult that I can always go to and I know that I can trust. So she's really great to have in my life, and I'm so happy I have her and never would have met her if it wasn't for Young Life.
I've gone to church since I was a baby, but it never really like clicked with me. The whole Jesus thing, like it was just like being preached and like I didn't get it. But doing Young Life, it made it so much more relatable in perspective of like what my life is as a high schooler, and it's so much easier to like relate to him and relate to all the stories when it's being taught to me through people my age and through common day things.
So then the Jewish leaders, also called Pharisees, they're these dudes that wore these big robes and these funny looking hats, and they were like, I'm really holy! And they were kind of wary of Jesus, because Jesus was a plain-clothed human being just like us. He was your everyday, run-of-the-mill kind of guy. His dad was a carpenter, he was a carpenter, he built stuff. He was like a man's man. I feel like if Jesus were here, he'd be wearing a flannel, similar to a lumberjack. That's the Jesus I am a fan of.
I go to Young Life because it's a very positive experience and for the people and to kind of get closer to Jesus. And because our area director Yoda.
They're really cute boys.
Okay, Lord Jesus, I pray over these cookies and that the people inside here will enjoy them, the people outside. Wish that they could have been here to see us do this for them. I pray that they have a safe place to sleep tonight. Pray that they're okay. Pray that everybody inside will welcome us in. In Jesus' name, amen.
So that was just a little snapshot into our Bloomington Young Life Club. And like I said, that group meets on Monday nights. We also are in our second year of Wildlife, which meets on Friday evenings. We've got a team of high school kids that give up their Friday night to be wildlife leaders and hang with middle schoolers. I mean, that's also another miracle. But yeah, so I want to leave some time for any questions, but so often, so give me 1 second, let me just, this is my last slide, but so often people say, you know, how can I get involved or what do you need? And so I will tell you, we're looking for volunteer leaders. If you know of any leaders that want to be kind of the boots on the ground there at club, we definitely need more volunteers leading on Monday nights or Friday nights. And then right now our big push is our golf tournament. So our golf tournament will be in June. It'll be at Braemar, and we're looking for businesses to sponsor holes. I think the first level of sponsorship is $500. I've got a golf chairperson that knows all the details. So if you're interested in knowing more, then my cards are at the back table. You can email me and I'll get you a flyer. But it'll be in June. It'll be at Braemar. We're looking for businesses to sponsor holes. We're looking for golfers to put teams of 4 together. It'll be a fun day. Every dollar that we raise goes to our operating budget. We're also looking for some help filling the gap for our campership fund. Yeah, so those are just some ways to get involved. I'd love to buy you coffee and tell you more if you're interested in hearing more about the ministry. But with that, I want to end on time here. So does anyone have any questions? Yes?
I don't have a question, but I really do not know your exact name, but I'll call you Messenger from God.
Oh, thank you.
And I will sponsor a home for $500 and you can send me the information. I have a meeting to go to, so I just wanted to say, I think she is Messenger. Yeah.
Wow. Who is that? That's sweet man. Oh my gosh, seriously. Okay, wow. Okay, any more questions? Yeah.
Wish you'd been around when I was in high school. But question I have to ask you, we have a large Jewish and Muslim population here, and what are you doing to build a tolerant interface between these three groups that all worship the God of Abraham?
Yeah, let's talk about that. I'm actually proud to say that our club is such a welcoming place that some of our girls that are good friends with a Muslim student from Jefferson that graduated last year, her name is Hulda. No, Hulda is the student that invited the friend. But she invited her Muslim friend without even thinking twice that she might feel unwelcome or anything like that. And she told her friend, yeah, it's a Christian group, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. You're welcome here. Like you can come here. They're not going to judge you. They're not going to try to pressure you. And that girl came to club and actually got up on stage for an upfront game. She chose to stay for campaigners because she just wanted to hear more about what we believe. And we asked her to share about what she believed. It was an awesome experience for her. She felt loved and felt welcomed, and yeah. So I think a lot of that's the kids. But I think that they take their lead and their cue from their leaders, and they see us welcoming every single person that walks through the door. So, yeah.
Yes. When I was in high school, there was a group called Youth for Christ, and we met in the school, I don't know how often, a long time ago. Is that still in existence, and how long has Young Life been around?
Youth for Christ is still an organization. I don't know if it is in Bloomington specifically, not that I know of. But Young Life has been in Bloomington for, I think, over 40 years. Yeah. I remember Kevin Grubner, the former principal of Jefferson, and I met a couple of years ago, and he said, I used to go to Young Life at Lincoln. Yeah. Yes.
Two questions you kind of talked about just a little bit, but what's your profile, your target for participants and then for leaders?
For leaders, so our requirement, we obviously want people that are professing Christians. We ask that our leaders be involved in a local church. I'm a firm believer that you should minister from the overflow, because especially working with, I know people don't really use at-risk term so much anymore, but especially working with kids that might have some hard stories, that can be pretty draining if you're not filled up yourself. So we ask for people that are actively involved in a local church. I would love to diversify our leadership team more. I'd really love more friends of color leading in our area, volunteering in our area. But yeah, I mean, we just really need more adults in general in the room, and not just in the room, but leading, doing contact work and hanging out with kids outside of club as well. For kids, you mean, who are we looking for to come? Everybody. So Young Life, we've just moved our initiative worldwide is called Forward. But before Forward, our big campaign for years was called Every Kid. And Young Life was very much aware that they had sort of a certain reputation for attracting a certain kind of kid, and it was what Bloomington Club originally looked like, and they just wanted to change that. And so they've been very intentional about really trying to hire more staff of color, find more board members and volunteers of color. You know, the Bible says every tribe, every tongue, every nation, you know, and so we want our clubs and to represent our cities and to represent what we believe is the kingdom. Yeah.
You talk about Jefferson. Are you also reaching out to the kids at Kennedy?
Oh, heck yeah. I'm a volunteer lunch lady at Kennedy. I rock a hairnet. Yeah, it's the youngest one, but I love it. I volunteer at Kennedy so I can see my kids. Our club is, I would say it's split in half. It's not Jefferson heavy or Kennedy. It maybe got a little Kennedy heavy there for a while, which I was okay with. We have a great relationship with Jefferson administration. I don't know as many administration at Kennedy, but I'm a district volunteer, and so I, at Jefferson, can just walk in, and counselors have asked me to come in and be involved in conversations with certain kids that maybe needed a friend in some meetings. And I'd love to know more of the administration at Kennedy, but I am welcome there to volunteer as I'm a district volunteer. Yeah.
That's kind of a two-part question. One, just how are you funded? And then two, I really know a little about the schools and how they utilize the work. So are there clubs for Jewish and Muslim kids, and how do you balance sort of the proselytizing versus just kids who reach out to you rather than looking for vulnerable kids?
Right.
Who might be right for some of that proselytizing?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to answer the second part of your question first. So the proselytizing, so I'm very respectful of the boundaries of the school. So when I'm at the school, I'm a district volunteer. I'm also a substitute, so I have subbed a few times at Jefferson. A lot of times the way that when a kid will ask me, if a kid says, "You're the Young Life person, right? What is Young Life?" If one of my kids is there, usually I'll say, "Tell her." Like I let the kids do the talking in that way. I am very much aware that these are public schools, and there's a high level of trust between the administration, especially at Jefferson, and myself, and they know what I do, they know my heart, they know our mission, but they also know that I respect the boundaries at school and that I'm not evangelizing in the lunchroom. There was an issue at Kennedy a few years ago of some youth directors that were volunteering and serving lunch, and I think they were having conversations with some of maybe their own kids in the lunchroom, and people overheard, and it became a bit of Kennedy kind of closed the doors a little more to that. But so knowing that, I really respect those boundaries. So I'm not evangelizing in the hallways at school. Regarding are there Jewish and Muslim clubs, not with Young Life. So Young Life's actual mission is introducing adolescents to Jesus. Oh, are there clubs? Well, we are not an official club of Jefferson or Kennedy. So we're a friend of the school board, but we're not an official school club. So we don't meet at the school. Yeah, I just volunteer because I get to see the kids that I work with, and yeah. So just as someone that likes youth and wants to support the school, I think the administrators and the teachers at Jefferson and Kennedy are awesome humans, and I want to help support them any way I can. So it's really different. I mean, it's connected because it's my heart for kids, and it's me being present in the community, which is part of my role with Young Life, but it's different in that I'm not promoting Young Life. I don't even wear my Young Life shirt to school when I'm there volunteering because I'm very careful about that.
I have a question over there.
Yes.
The ages that you're reaching out to are principally high school?
And middle school. So yeah, so we have our Wildlife Club is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Our Young Life Club is 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. And we're dreaming about, we would love to start a Capernaum Club in the next year or two, which is Young Life for kids with disabilities and special needs.
Are you finding that your demographics is now reflecting more of the demographics of the community?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the demographics of the two high schools already are just so different that even just having a presence in the high school, and I don't mean presence in the high school, I mean those kids coming to our club, has really changed it a lot. Okay, I'm so sorry.
And I'm sure you will be willing to stay back and answer additional questions that people have. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.